We are here live with Luca and Laura. How
Good
is everybody
morning.
doing?
Good morning and good evening, whatever you're watching.
Oh, yeah, Luca, that's right.
Yes, it is later in the day for Luca. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We are doing lives here on Rejuvenate Raw on Wednesday morning at 9:45 a.m. Central Standard Time. So last week, Luca shared with us his story about his health transformation. And this week, I'm going to talk about mine. So I hope you're all doing well. And let's get started. So the first 50 years of my life were a struggle with one illness after another. And it really, even as soon as I was born, it wasn't even sure whether I would live more than a few weeks. As a young child, I suffered constantly. I had digestive disorders, asthma. I had even anxiety as a child. I always had the flu, strep throat, colds, the typical childhood diseases, mumps and measles, things like that. Life was always a struggle with my health. And I can even remember as far back as kindergarten when I was sent home from school due to diarrhea that I couldn't control. So the intestinal issues were there from a very early age. And of course, you know, back at that time, I was treated by doctors through all of it, and which meant that I had tons and tons of antibiotics. My teen years weren't any better. The health problems intensified. I had just the worst menstrual cramps, heavy bleeding. Then in my teens, I had excruciating back, neck, and shoulder pain, and the tightness began really all over my body. The intestinal issues began at the outset of my life, and I was always constipated as a child. I remember trying to tell my parents about this problem, but you know, they didn't really think anything of it, like it was no big deal. So I just thought it was normal. So in my teens, I started having, oh, sorry, I already said that. So I had tooth pain and tooth issues, even going back as young as maybe 9 or 10 years old. I had many cavities, and then after that, I started getting broken teeth, which required root canals, and then that led to tooth extractions when I got older, and I realized that I didn't want to have any part of having root canals in my mouth, so I had those removed. As a young adult, I still had issues when I gave birth to both my children. I had really tough pregnancy or deliveries. I hemorrhaged badly when giving birth to my daughter. In my 40s, I experienced pain for several months on my lower side, which led to an emergency surgery to remove one of my ovaries due to a ruptured ovarian cyst. And that eventually led to a full hysterectomy. And that surgery started out as an exploratory surgery to find the cause of the pain. And I was cut from one side of my hip bone to the other, which, as you can imagine, was pretty painful. So let's go forward to my 50s. It just got worse and worse. The tightness in my neck, shoulders, and back got so much worse. And it really became impossible for me to turn my head. It was like cold all the way to the side. All of my muscles were rigid. My upper body became almost immovable. I was constantly at the chiropractor's office. Really, I almost lived there. I was there almost every day of the week. And doctors, they couldn't find anything wrong with me. They'd just say, oh, your blood work looks fine, no big deal. I was consumed with pain 24/7, and I could not function normally. You know, they called it fibromyalgia then, and I think they still do. And they said, I went to rheumatologists, all kinds of doctors, and they said, oh, there's just no cure for this. We don't really know what causes it, but we can give you medication, and you can be on this medication for the rest of your life. Well, in my late 50s, the issues were way too many to ignore. And up to this point, I really hadn't done a lot to change my diet. I really didn't know. I looked into it. I tried a few things, but nothing really seemed to work. And then in my 50s, I developed severe candida, and that led me to the keto diet, if you've heard of that, which is high protein, high fat. And so for 2 years, I ate mostly meat, coconut oil, and eggs, which is exactly opposite of what I should have been eating, which is what I know now. Some of the symptoms got better though, because I wasn't eating carbs, grains, or sugar. But I found out several years later that the keto diet was the exact opposite of what I should be eating. And this diet had caused great distress to my kidneys and lymph system, which eventually put me near death. So soon after, I started experiencing pain in my intestines and got very sick. This was like in my mid-50s. The pain, fever, and weakness continued for more than a week. And the pain in my abdomen was so intense, I just begged to go to the emergency room. I knew something was seriously wrong. They found I had an abscess in my pelvic area, and I was taken to an ambulance to a hospital that was 30 minutes away. And the next day, the doctors put a tube in my abdomen to drain a large abdominal abscess to save my life. Afterwards, many tests were done to discover the cause of this abscess. They said it was something they normally don't see, except for someone like in their late 70s or 80s. But of course, they found no explanation and said not to worry about it. So a few years later, just all hell broke loose. It began with a boil. I had it like right here in my nose, and it was caused by a MRSA infection. And then everything started snowballing. I had severe fatigue, and I had this really weird like disconnect in my brain. It was like I was in sub reality. I didn't know who I was at times or where I was. Soon after that, I was diagnosed with a C. diff infection in my intestines. And if you know what this is, it's very, very serious. It's life-threatening. It's basically a bacteria eating our colon from the inside out. I couldn't eat. If I took anything to drink, I would have severe diarrhea. So this was one of the scariest things of all. At 5'5", I dropped to under 90 pounds. I had to be flown to Florida, where a doctor saved my life by putting healthy bacteria in my colon. And when it was all said and done, I had to be flown to Florida 4 times to have this procedure done. So every day I did nothing except work to save my life. So during this time, it was revealed that I had a bad parasite infestation, including worms. And over the course of several years, I went to many doctors, tried many protocols, including zappers, turpentine therapy, herbal protocols, and heavy-duty anti-parasitical medications to rid my body of the parasites. You know, I was so terrified I was going to die, and I literally was dying. Sorry, I'm detoxing today. So through it all, many health issues were revealed. I had heavy metal poisoning, mold toxicity, even the presence of chemicals and dyes in my body. And all of this led to more doctor visits, more supplements. I tried so many diets. I remember waking up every day feeling like I was in the Groundhog Day from hell. Nothing changed. And this was over the course of several years. I was housebound. I couldn't drive. I tried so much. We went to so many doctors, and I even went to a clinic for 3 weeks to detox. We even were convinced to fly to Germany to have an immune therapy treatment done on my tonsils. Again, nothing worked. You know, around that time, I started working with a medical doctor who was an expert on parasites and prescribing anti-parasite medication. I also took treatments which included vitamin C, heavy metal chelation, ultraviolet blood irradiation treatments, and so much. So you can even begin to imagine the thousands and thousands of dollars we spent trying to get me well. Over the course of the year before I discovered how to get well, I was in the ER over 15 times in 1 year. And I remember every time I went in, the doctors would say, or the nurses, you just have white coat syndrome, or you need to see a psychiatrist, you know. And I remember the day that they laughed at me when I took in this huge parasite that had come out of me, and they told me I was crazy. I didn't even check out. I just put my clothes on and I walked out the door, and I decided then and there I would never go back to a doctor again, and I would figure out how to do this myself. Well, at that time, I knew I was dying. And on one of my worst days, I was introduced to Laura, who is a life coach. She's an energy healer, and she has so many designations under her name. She knows about heart-focused breathing, meditation. So Laura introduced me to the concept of the mind-body connection and taught me how important my thoughts and emotions affect the physical body. So I started meditating, quieting my mind. I practiced thoughts of wellness and freedom to try to put my body back in a homeostasis. So within a few months of learning to meditate and working on improving my thoughts and emotions, everything started to turn around. Someone told me about Dr. Robert Morse. I started watching his videos, explain the importance of the lymphatic system and cleaning lymphatic waste from the body. I learned about how eating raw fruit assists in this process, and that humans are actually designed to be fruitarians. And it's just when I started to watch his videos, Dr. Morse, everything just started to make sense. All those symptoms I was having, and it was like this big light bulb went off in my head. And Dr. Morse explained that fruit sugar is simple sugar, which is different than complex sugar. Doctors had told me for years not to eat fruit. It would make the issues worse. And finally, I decided, what do I have to lose? And so we did buy fruit. I started eating it. And just within a day, I noticed I was feeling better. And I mean, nothing had worked before, so I decided to keep going. And within 2.5 weeks of eating only fruit, doing my meditating, thinking better thoughts, I was able to go on a vacation to the Bahamas with my husband on a trip he won through work. It was a true miracle. I'm not kidding you guys. I had not left the house in like 3 or 4 years. So you can even begin to imagine what a miracle this was to me. And the rest is pretty much history, because I just continued to improve month after month through doing these two things, which was eating mostly fruit and raw food, and changing my thoughts and emotions. Of course, I went through a roller coaster ride the next couple of years detoxing. It was not easy. And I am still going through it today, as you can tell, 3.5 years later, because it takes a long time to detox the body after it's been sick for 60 years. But the cool thing is that you do start feeling better, and I am feeling better than I have ever felt in my life. My health issues have mostly disappeared, except for these detox days. I'm really a totally different person, physically and emotionally. I feel good, I have energy, I have more clarity than I've ever had before. I'm getting more and more flexible, which is amazing. And if Luke and Laura probably remember when we first started talking, my head was like almost pulled to the side, and it just keeps getting better and better. And my intestines are just healthier than they've ever been. There's no pain or discomfort. My elimination is regular, and there's really just no discomfort at all. I feel really good, you guys. And emotionally, I'm very focused and stable. I've taught myself how to remain at peace and ease in most every circumstance. And we know life isn't easy, right, you guys? But I have really trained my mind to focus on the gratitude and how to accept others, be okay, really, with whatever comes our way. And as I continued to heal, I learned what a miracle it was. And of course, I wanted to get this word out to everybody because I thought, oh my gosh, people just don't know this information, and they're going to doctors and hospitals and they're doing things like chemo and all that stuff. And I found that it's not necessary. I forgot to mention that I had a lump on my throat, and I had a pretty good idea, it was the big C, but I knew that I could heal it myself. And 6 months after I started meditating and on the raw food diet, that lump went away, and it went down to almost nothing, and it just kept getting smaller and smaller. And I've never even really ever had it tested or done any treatments on it, because I believe in the power of our body, that it can heal itself. So as I figured all this out, I just knew that I wanted to get this word out. And I knew that Laura and Luca also contained the key. Luca, he knows so much about the diet and the science of how everything works in the body. Laura, of course, knows about the mind-body connection and how to change ourselves physically through our thoughts. So I teamed up with them, and we created the Rejuvenation Key course. And it's 126 videos featuring Luca, Laura, and myself, talking about the different aspects of health transformation, giving the science behind it, and the how to do what we did. Laura provides daily meditations. I talk about my journey and what I applied. Luca talks about the science behind the diet and how to do it. He provides a 6-week protocol. And I'm telling you guys, this course is amazing. And if you want to heal your body from the inside out, from the core issues, rather than to use medication to suppress it, then this course I think is probably the best health course on the face of the planet, because it teaches us how to get to the core of the problem and to get rid of it so it doesn't ever come back again. And not only that, but you find yourself in a better state, not only physically, but emotionally and spiritually. And I just believe that the fountain of youth is found in the 2 ingredients that I learned, the raw food diet and changing the emotions. So I just wanted to put out an offer for anyone who's interested today. If you want to do what I've done, what Luca did, to learn how to do it and to learn from us. Also, when you join the Rejuvenation Key course, we provide group coaching on Wednesday for anybody who's in that course on our private Facebook page. But I will give you $50 off to join the course. If you will message me right on the comments under this video, we'll go ahead and send you out an invoice for the course with the $50 reduction. All right, Luca and Laura, what do you have to say about my story? Anything you want to add to this?
Join us and you will learn how Kim healed himself by transforming her emotions and her physical body. Okay, it will be amazing. It will be an amazing journey. Come on and join us.
Yeah.
I have to leave, so I'm going to take out. Okay.
All right.
All right,
Bye.
Laura. Bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, your story is amazing. I remember just when we met for the first time, it was, you're a completely different person now. You've come far, far, far from where you were when we met, and you've already done a lot of healing until that point as well, when we met. And the most interesting thing that you said on the end of your story is about changing, because you wouldn't have able to be to have done that and to be where you are until you actually decide that you will change no matter what to be healthy, and you change yourself. And because you are now who you are, a completely new, different, healthy you can't be the same as you were before when you were in that chronic state. So that's like the main key, in my opinion, changing yourself. Because if you don't change yourself, you can suppress and like stop your symptoms as much as you like. But if you don't change, nothing will change.
Right. And the cool thing is, it's not just about your health, but it's your life in general and how much better life gets in so many ways. All right,
Yep.
Luca. Well, thank you so much for being part of our live today. We'll be back next Wednesday. Again, as a reminder, if you guys want to jump into the Rejuvenation Key course, just be prepared, because you'll never be the same again. And that's in a very good way. So, all right, send me a message and we will see you next week. See you later.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.